How does Pete Carmichael need to improve? NewOrleans.football.com. Mike Triplett, Nick Underhill, all the boys are here in the cave. I'll tell you this right now. How does he need to improve? Great question. And I have the answer. Virtually in every single way. I would give Pete Carmichael an F for last year. I would give him a 0 out of 100. He was abysmal. He lost us games. If you think that's overreacting, it's not. He lost us the Tampa Bay game. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If I was on the sidelines, we would have won the game in Tampa Bay. And that's crazy because I'm not a coach in the NFL. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I've not been with the Saints for 17 years. But without a shadow of a doubt, I know we win that game. Because I wouldn't have made the 6 consecutive mistakes that he made. And I said it in real time. It wasn't even a Monday morning quarterback thing. All right? Carmichael's problem is I don't think he's an offensive coordinator. You're going to say, well, he's been there for 17 years. He's been the offensive coordinator. Remember how good we were with Drew Brees? Guys, it's the wool is being pulled from our eyes. All right, we got to be able to see clear. He wasn't calling the offense. He had nothing to do with the offense. He was hanging out with Sean Payton. Sean Payton installed, ran, created, designed everything with that offense. Drew Brees was more of an offensive coordinator at the time than Pete Carmichael. All right? He can't do the job. He can't do it. He can't create. He can't adjust. He can't design. He can't implement. And when you have a defensive coordinator as the head coach, that's not good. Why do you think they brought in John Gruden 2 months ago or a week ago or a month ago, whenever it was? They brought in Gruden to help Carr. They have a 17-year experienced, tenured offensive coordinator, and they don't trust him with their franchise quarterback. What does that tell you? Pete Carmichael, what does he need to do to improve? Let's really break down what he could do. Have a game plan. Have a philosophy. Have a coaching style. Have an offensive scheme. That sounds very basic because it is. Every game last year, he was rolling the dice. It was just a runner pass play, roll it, flip a coin. You know, like there was no personnel decisions. There was none of that. So that's the basis for what I would say is his improvement. Can he get the right personnel on the field at the right time? Can he design the right plays for the right time? Or is it just going to be random play here, random play there? Let's see what happens over the course of 4 quarters.
And if we're talking about coaches that need to step up and produce more, Pete Carmichael is 100% in that conversation. So for Pete Carmichael as an offensive coordinator, everybody's been questioning his tactics. You know, is it going to work with Derek Carr? This, that, and the other. But will Pete Carmichael meet the moment? Presented by New Orleans.
We'll know immediately. I say that a lot because it's true. We'll know within the first 1 or 2 games if Pete Carmichael is ready to meet the moment, as they say here. Because we'll know if he's going to do the same thing as last year. After the first game, after the game against Tennessee, we'll of course do a review of the game on the channel. I'll flat out tell you, it looks the same. And if it looks the same, it's not going to be good. I mean, that's just the fact. The fact of the matter is, like, Pete Carmichael has not proven to me that he can be an offensive coordinator. As bad as that sounds. So at the minimum, he just has to prove that he can actually, like, do the job. It's almost like we're at a basic level, ladies and gentlemen, of like almost like someone driving. He hasn't proven to me he can drive. So right now, he has to, like, take me from point A to point B. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for him to drive fast. We're not asking for him to drive, you know, in some advanced tactics. We're not asking him to have a manual stick shift. We're not asking him to drive at 200 miles an hour on a road course. We're just asking him to go get groceries. We're asking him to get down to Rouse's, get down to Walmart. He has not proven that he could even put the car in gear. Start it. He doesn't know where his keys are. Okay?
Hamburger and seafood company.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he will. He needs to. If he doesn't meet the moment, they're in significant trouble. And, you know, I think there's a handful of things that they need to do to get there. They got to have a clear identity this year. I don't want to hear in October, November, December, well, we should have had a better plan for this. We should have had a better plan for that. I like that Pete Carmichael ate his medicine last year. Every time something was wrong, he didn't try to make an excuse. He was just always like, we messed this up. I got to do better. But like,
this frame behind Nicholas, the top left, is in shambles. We got tape on the left side. We got tape on the bottom right. We got stains in the middle. What is going on with this photo? Get a reframe. It's off center. Is that styrofoam? Is this a styrofoam situation? What's happening with this picture?
I don't want to hear that this year. I heard enough of that. There's no more like leeway on that. Like, oh, well, Pete gets it. Well, no, Pete gets it. And now he needs to actually deliver on the things that he's getting. My second thing, and this is where I think they need the most help overall, is they need to figure out how to be a modern offense. And at one
but they need to figure out how to be an offense. This is what I think could easily happen. I think we could have a situation where Pete struggles, Pete fumbles in the first 4 or 5 games. The Saints are scuffling. We're having the same problems as last year, and Pete's gone. And I would love to see them bring in someone like John Gruden for the remainder of the season. We know that Gruden's obviously locked into the franchise. He helped out implement the offense or whatever with Carr. So if Pete just says, "Look, I don't think I can do this. Like I'm having some trouble here. I've given it the good old college try for a year and a half. This isn't going to work." The Saints have too much invested in the 3-year window. That's another thing that now people have to realize. By signing Derek Carr, the Saints have basically said, we are going to try and win within the next 4 years. Now, whether that's win the NFC or the Super Bowl, whatever, but they're going to try and win. So they don't have the time to waste on Pete Carmichael. And he has proven to be a weak link. I mean, I don't want to keep harping on that, but at the same time I do, because it needs to be said. Allen, I think, is safe as far as the season. He may, if we fail this season, he'll be gone. But as far as like a mid-season thing, I don't think they're going to fire him. So if we're 1-3, 0-4, maybe even 2-2, and the offense looks bad, and Derek Carr looks like he's struggling, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they say, "All right, Pete, get the hell out of here and bring in a John Gruden for 14 games or whatever." But I heard a report from Adam Chernoff on VSiN, and Chernoff was talking about how Carmichael last year, and Adam Chernoff, if you don't know who he is, very tuned in NFL insider in the sports gambling world. He's a much better much better NFL insider than the clowns that ESPN calls insiders. I'll tell you that. But Chernoff was saying that Pete Carmichael did not want the job last year. He didn't want the offensive coordinator job. He didn't feel like he could do it. He didn't feel like he was up to it. Allen had to talk him into it, and we saw how that went. So everything I've said for the last year is true. Like Carmichael knows. Carmichael knows that's just not what I do. He may be like an assistant counsel, whatever. But as far as calling the plays, getting the plays in, designing the scheme, that kind of stuff, that's just not his bag, right? Last year, trial by fire or whatever, maybe he learned a lot, and maybe we'll see a new Pete Carmichael. But there's just some things people don't do. There's just some things, like we all know coaches that are better coordinators than head coaches, right? Well, maybe there's coaches that are better, whatever the step below a coordinator is. I guess just a regular like offensive coach. Maybe Carmichael is great in that situation. Maybe he's great as a second, third guy who can kind of throw some ideas out there, kind of brainstorm a little bit, but he's not the guy. He's not the designer of the offense, and that's fine. That's okay. But if he's not, get him the hell out of there.
Point, this was a modern offense. In 2017, and this is so fascinating to me, in 2017, they used motion on 404 plays, 12th in the league. In the 5 years since then, the whole league has changed how they play offense. Last year, the Saints used 351 plays of motion on offense. There's one more game. It's obviously a drop per game, but it's not like wildly out of range with what they've always done. That ranked dead last in the NFL by 50 plays. The 49ers led the NFL with 854. They were almost triple what the Saints were doing. It's archaic almost in what they were doing. And I think it's fascinating that they brought John Gruden in here, because they were super low with him early on in his tenure. And then by 2020, they became 12th in the league in motion. So
let's talk about pre-snap motion. So this is something I talked about a lot last year, was our pre-snap motion ranking. the pre-snap motion, now you may say, like, we're kind of getting into the deep analytics here, but you may say, well, what does that matter? It matters because it shows creativity. It shows you are adjusting on the fly. A lot of the times motion is to see what the defense is doing, is to get specific offensive people open, we'll just say, to use a very vague term. But you always see people, like, they'll drag someone in motion, and then you should immediately know if they're in zone or in man. Stuff like that. I mean, that's why people utilize motion, I think, the majority of an offense. By the Saints not moving with the rest of the league and staying put with their pre-snap motion, to me, that proves that they're just rolling out what Peyton had back then. There is no adjustment. They're not looking for anything. They're not designing anything. They're not trying anything. They're just rolling the same stuff out there and hoping it works, which is nuts, which is crazy to me. Like, how can they be coaches in the NFL, and how can they not understand what's going on? And you have someone like Kyle Shanahan, who, whatever Nick just said, that he's 850 pre-snap motion plays, and the Saints are back at 350 like they were 6 years ago. That just proves that the guys that we have that are moving the chess pieces don't know how to play chess.
Similar offense, looking at the league, looking at what everybody's doing, Gruden figured out how to kind of tailor to what the rest of the league was doing and keep pace, whereas the Saints just kind of deteriorated and stayed the same. That has to change. And they're aware of this because they were trying to steal plays from the 49ers last year. There were a couple concepts they took. They tried to introduce it. So they know they need to be better at this, but they just weren't.
But he's saying what he's right there. I thought he was going to say it at the end there. They're trying to steal plays from the 49ers because that's all they can do. All they can do is see what someone's doing, a la Sean Payton, and say, well, let's just do that. But they don't understand the rhyme or the reason behind why they're doing it. They don't understand why Kyle Shanahan is running those plays or why certain player is going in motion. They don't understand that, because if they did understand that, they would design and implement their own schemes around that philosophy. And I know a lot of people are going to say that I'm being too hard or unrealistic. Obviously, they know, right? I'm sure as you're watching this, you're saying, James, there's no way that Pete Carmichael doesn't understand why Kyle Shanahan is moving the people in motion. There's no way Pete Carmichael or Dennis Allen doesn't understand why this is happening. Look, the proof is in the chocolate pudding. They don't. If they did, they would do it. You can't say they understand when we're 500 plays behind the 49ers, when we're going backwards, when the rest of the league is moving forward. They aren't designing, and I'm saying they, as far as like the entire coaching staff, but Pete Carmichael is the top guy that has to do this. Pete Carmichael doesn't understand it. If he doesn't understand it, why is he the offensive coordinator? Write this down. In Denver, Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi will be running the offense this season. Go look at what Nathaniel Hackett had them doing last year. Pre-snap motion, all that stuff. Just look at the offensive numbers. Yards per play, yards per game, whatever you want to do. Look at it last year and look at it this year. And I guarantee you it's going to be completely different. Why? Because Sean Payton gets it. Sean Payton understands why. He understands what the rest of the league is doing. He understands what he is doing. He understands how to implement a scheme and a philosophy. You can't implement a scheme and a philosophy if you don't have one. And that's where the Saints are.
That's the main thing for me. And then last one, they got to figure out how to protect better. Their protection needs to be better. That's going to, I think, take care of itself with Derek Carr and just kind of a little bit more organization there. But there's a handful of things that they need to do significantly better to be a modern, effective offense.
All right, we've got Nick's 3 ways the offense needs to improve for next season. We will get Mike Triplett's 3 ways the offense needs to improve right after this.
We're going on a break? Let's see. Let's see what Mike says. Let's see what Michael says.
More. I mean, every possible way that an offense can be improved.
All right, let's see.
Nick already gave 3, and I probably could name about 18 more. I mean, every possible way that an offense can be improved.
That's my answer, right? Like, every possible way an offense can be improved is what I'm saying with we need an offense at a base level. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not have an offense. We have offensive players, but we don't have an offense. It sounds crazy because, it's 2023 in the NFL. We don't have a scheme. We have players and we kind of draw up plays, but as far as what we're trying to do, as far as an identity, as far as a design, as far as adjustments, you can't even say that it's bad because it's non-existent. It does not exist. Personnel, we got random players on the field during random times. There's no rhyme or reason for why someone's in, why someone's out. The distance doesn't matter. The game flow doesn't matter. None of that stuff. So we've got to get to a base level. And that's what Mike and Nick and me have said, which is nuts.
The Saints can improve the offense. You were talking about your stat on how little they used motion. I also stole another Nick Underhill stat last year about how they were by far the lowest in the NFL in play action pass attempts last year, which is a stunning number because this team wanted to be like a ground and pound run first offense last year. And they were bad at play action passes. They were bad at being a run first offense. They had a bottom 5 conversion rate last year on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. I mean, they were losing games because they could not protect a lead. They could not convert a 3rd and 1. A lot of that had to do with offensive line injuries. But then on the flip side, they were also bottom 5 in explosive plays. They basically did nothing well last year.
What else do I need to say, ladies and gentlemen? And the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, all that stuff. Another problem with this, and I talked about this a lot too, is personnel stuff. How many times did a 3rd and 1 go to a Taysom Hill, pistol snap, run up the middle? We took a 3rd and 1, turned it into a 3rd and 6. How many times was the 3rd string running back in instead of Skrmetta? How many times was Mark Ingram catching passes instead of Skrmetta? How many times was another thing we did all the time was Taysom at quarterback and then like the 3rd string running back at running back, and then Taysom would do like the read option. Why is Skrmetta not in? Why would you're basically telling the defense Taysom's keeping this ball. But if Kamara's in, you at least they have to at least account for him. That happened all the time too. All the time we had these weird personnel setups, and that was a big issue on 3rd down, 4th down. Was not only was the play calling bad, but the personnel was bad. We can go back to the Tampa game. Whenever it was the 3rd down and I can't remember the exact down and distance, but it was when they threw the ball to Taysom. And Olave wasn't on the field. It was like Taysom and like a backup tight end or someone who hasn't caught a pass all year, and they throw it to Taysom. I think it was a slant. It was like a 3rd and short, and it was a Taysom slant play, but we didn't have any of our top receivers in the game. How's that happen? Things like that is what I'm talking about.
So, you got to see them do the old school tough, tough brand of football better and be able to convert 3rd and 1. You've got to see them, do explosive plays better. But look, the top 2 on my list are the same guys we've talked about for years now, Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. You've got 2 uniquely talented players. Show that you know what to do with them. Alvin Kamara has grown so stale in recent years, and part of that, as Nick has pointed out, he's been better between the tackles and outside. Everybody said
Kamara last year, another damning piece of evidence against this offensive brain trust was how poorly they used Alvin Kamara in the passing game. Kamara didn't run routes last year. I would love to know if someone's all 22 to every game last year, how many routes, true routes, did he run last year? I would say less than 10, less than 1 a game. Every one of his passes, and I watched every game, and I bet on a lot of Alvin Kamara receiving props. All of his passes were just dumps out of the backfield, and they were usually in the 3rd and 4th quarter when we were getting smoked, and it would be, protection would break down, dump it to Kamara, and that was it. There was no screens, there was no, Kamara running a go route or Kamara running up the seam or in the flats or a post or a corner or whatever. And then you go look at some of his highlights when Peyton was there. He looks like a receiver. He's running all kind of stuff. He's out there. He's catching the ball deep. He's a legitimate pass catching back. He's not just a guy who is getting the ball dumped to him. That was another problem. If you take that away, same with Christian McCaffrey. If you take away McCaffrey's passing game and he's just a downhill between the tackles runner, he's nowhere near the same player. And that's what they did with Skrmetta last year. It's exactly what he did. He was basically Mark Ingram. They used Skrmetta the exact same way they used Mark Ingram. They aren't the same players. So I want to see Skrmetta way more in the passing game this year.
Says, why don't you get him outside on the edges? Well, he's an older player who's not dominating outside the edges. But I put some of that on the coaches too. Figure it out, because I have not seen more guys more talented in the open field. Figure out how to give him some space. If you have to line him up at receiver more, you've got the running back depth to do it now. And we've talked about Taysom Hill a million times. The one thing, though, will Pete Carmichael meet the moment? They gave him the number one tool that any offensive coordinator needs, like almost like handpicked quarterback. Like we know the offense you run, Pete, and here's a quarterback who looks like he was built to run this type of offense. I mean, he's going to give Pete talked about how excited he was to be able to give a quarterback 2 or 3 play calls. He said that makes my job a lot easier. He'll read the defense and then he'll get us in the best play. You talked about how Derek Carr played with Gruden. This is a similar offense in its bones. This should be a guy who can run what Pete Carmichael wants to run. So if it doesn't work with Derek Carr, it's not going to work with Pete Carmichael.
Meet them.
100%. If we're 6 games into the season and it's not working, I can go ahead and tell you right now, it's a Pete Carmichael thing. We gave him leash a whole year as the offensive coordinator, whatever, bringing him back. I would assume the conversation's probably been had where it's like, Pete, look, we need more. Like, we need you to step up. There's plenty of coaches out there that can do it if you can't. So, get right or get left. But I would think Pete Carmichael's on a 4 to 6 game tryout here to see if he can be an offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Moment or meet the road, really, is kind of what it is.
Get right or get left.
Fans share that sentiment too.
I mean,
GTFO, he's a clown.
I think it was right there on the cusp of it, honestly. And I think the league-wide turnover probably bought some patience in the overall, how are we going to get better at this? And okay, well, maybe it's just best trying to figure it out with.
I'll tell you what bought Pete Carmichael time, Derek Carr. Bringing in Carr, I think Loomis is probably seeing this as like, maybe this will work. We'll give it a go. We don't want to have too much turnover with Carr coming in. So let's try and keep some stability, see if Carr can fix some problems. But they're way more invested in Derek Carr than they are in Pete Carmichael, for sure. So Carr is what bought Carmichael another half year or however long he gets.
This guy with the right quarterback, see how it goes. But look, a couple of things we're talking about, these issues. Bad on 3rd and 1, 4th one. Jamal Williams, bad at motion. John Gruden comes in to help him out. So it seems like there's at least an awareness of a lot of the areas.
That makes me sick to my stomach. I want to throw up all over my chest every time I hear that. Whenever I hear bad in motion, they brought in John Gruden. John Gruden is not on the coaching staff. Why are we bringing in people to fix what our coaching staff should be doing? Go get a better coach. It's so crazy. It's so crazy to like, every time I hear it, I get just bubbling, just indigestion, just acid, putrid, just indigestion in my chest. Every time it'd be like saying, yeah, our quarterback's having some trouble throwing the ball to our receivers in practice, so we brought in a quarterback to do it. And then we're going to let the guy who can't do it in the games where it matters. Bringing in Gruden for 2 weeks to implement the offense with Derek Carr, and then letting Pete Carmichael flick the propeller on his rainbow-colored hat. Like, I don't know what those things are called. You know what I'm talking about, with the hat with the little propeller on the top? As he's doing that at practice, like, what does Pete Carmichael think when they're like, hey, Pete, hey, check it out. I know you've been here for 20 years as the offensive coordinator, LOL. But we're going to bring in John Gruden to implement the offense for 2 weeks. Like, how is he just like, yeah, that sounds good? Don't you think at some point he would think, man, they don't have very much faith in me if they're bringing a guy who isn't on the coaching staff to implement the offense, and I've been here for 17 years. It's the craziest thing in the world. Like, think about what you do at work, whatever you do at your job, and think about if they said, hey, look, we're going to bring someone in to do exactly what your job is. So you just hang out, and he'll do it, and then we'll see if you can do it later. Wouldn't you be thinking, well, they don't trust me to do it. That ain't good.
Where they were poor, and they're going to try to find ways to get better. But all the tools are there now. So meet the moment, or
All the tools are there if this offensive line stays healthy. To me, that
No, all the tools are there if Pete Carmichael figures it out. Let me know in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen, do you think Pete Carmichael will figure it out? Am I being too harsh on the man? Spoiler alert, no. And do you think Pete Carmichael will survive the season? Will he be the offensive coordinator going into the offseason? Will he be there, or will we make a move? Go get John Gruden, go get someone else. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next video.